Welcome to Stories of History. I'm your host, Virgilio. Today we're diving into a story where scientific discovery met not with applause, but with flames. We're talking about 1930 Spain under Franco's regime, a time when Charles Darwin's Origin of Species became a target. You see, Spain's relationship with Darwin's ideas was complicated from the start. When Origin of Species first hit the scene, it was met with excitement by some, particularly during periods of progressive governments, who were eager for scientific advancement. However, the church saw it as a challenge to their teachings and pushed back hard. Think about the irony. You have these progressive governments embracing Darwin, then bam, the Bourbon monarchy returns and Darwin's theory is banned from classrooms. It's a stark reminder of how political shifts can impact the acceptance of scientific ideas. This tension comes to a head in 1936 with a dramatic event, a book burning at the Bergua publishing house. Bergua was known for printing affordable copies of Origin of Species, aiming to make this knowledge accessible to everyone, but their efforts were cut short when Franco supporters stormed the building, halting the printing and destroying countless copies. This wasn't just about destroying books, it was about controlling the narrative. We have a primary source that gives us a chilling glimpse into the mindset of the time. Antonio de Luna, a prominent law professor and a close friend of the celebrated poet Federico Garcia Lorca, gave a speech at this event that really highlights the atmosphere. Imagine this: a crowd of fervent phalangists, that's the name of the Spanish fascist political party at the time, their arms raised and salute faces turned towards the sun. De Luna declares, "To build a Spain, one great and free, we condemn to the fire the separatist books, the liberals, the Marxists, those of the Black Legend, the anti-Catholics, those of the sickly romanticism, the pessimists, the pornographic, those of extravagant modernism, the cheesy, the cowardly, the pseudoscientific, the bad texts, and the cheesy newspapers." This list is fascinating because it shows that Darwin wasn't the sole target. This wasn't just about science, it was about silencing any voice that challenged the ideology of the regime. It gives you a sense of the level of control they were aiming for. This event raises a question: why was Darwin's work seen as such a threat? To understand that, we need to understand the context of the Black Legend mentioned in de Luna's speech. This term refers to a historical narrative that criticizes the Spanish Empire, particularly its treatment of indigenous populations during colonization. Some in Spain saw Darwin's ideas, especially the concept of survival of the fittest, as potentially supporting this Black Legend. They feared it could be used to justify the idea that Spaniards were somehow inherently superior, a dangerous concept in a time of rising nationalism and political instability. It's fascinating how a scientific theory could become so deeply intertwined with political and religious anxieties. The book burnings, the censorship, the prohibition of teaching evolution in schools, these weren't just isolated events. They were tools of control meticulously designed to stifle dissent and maintain the status quo. It was about controlling the narrative, about dictating what people could read, learn, and even think. But here's the thing about knowledge. It's like a seed. Even if you bury it deep, even if you try to stamp it out, it has a way of finding a path of sprouting and growing. Despite the suppression, Darwin's ideas didn't vanish from Spain entirely. They persisted in whispers and hidden texts in the minds of those who dared to question the accepted truths. And as Spain transitioned to a more democratic society, Darwin reemerged from the shadows. His ideas found new life in classrooms, research institutions, and public discourse. Of course, the journey wasn't easy. Decades of suppression had left a mark on the education system and the broader cultural understanding of science. Generations of Spaniards have been denied access to Darwin's groundbreaking work. Evolutionary biology, a cornerstone of modern scientific understanding, was essentially missing from their education. But amidst this challenge, there was a palpable thirst for knowledge, a hunger to catch up with the rest of the world. Spanish scientists and educators, inspired by the newfound freedom of expression, worked tirelessly to reintroduce Darwin into the curriculum. New textbooks were written, university courses were established, and research programs dedicated to evolutionary biology began to flourish. It was an exciting time, a period of rediscovery and intellectual revitalization. Spain was finally coming to terms with Darwin's legacy, embracing the scientific revolution that had swept much of the world decades earlier. But as Darwin's ideas reemerged, so did the tension between science and religion. The church, though diminished in power, remained a force in Spanish society, and debates over the teaching of evolution, the role of creationism, and the very nature of science versus faith continued to spark passionate discussions. Remember that Ministry of Education resolution promoting creationism in 2015. It serves as a stark reminder that the struggle between scientific literacy and religious dogma is far from over, even in a modern democratic Spain. This clash wasn't just about Darwin. It was a reflection of a larger societal struggle. The ongoing quest for knowledge, the fight against censorship, and the delicate balance between tradition and progress. It makes you think, how do we ensure that scientific knowledge remains accessible and free from ideological interference? How do we create a society where critical thinking and evidence-based reasoning are valued? These are questions that transcend borders and time periods. They are questions that each generation must grapple with, for the stakes are high. The suppression of scientific knowledge, whether motivated by political expediency or religious dogma, ultimately hinders progress and limits our understanding of the world. So as we conclude our deep dive into the story of Darwin versus dictatorship in Spain, let's carry with us a renewed commitment to intellectual freedom, to the pursuit of knowledge, and to the courage to question the status quo. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep those minds engaged. Until next time on Stories of History. As Franco's grip on Spain loosened and the country transitioned to democracy, a fascinating shift began to take place.